On this episode of Realtor 180, we're going to sit down with Inna Rubinichik. What's fascinating about her is not only is she a realtor, but more specifically, she's a leasing agent. Today, she's going to divulge all and share with us her one main resource for long-term referrals. I'm your host, Shawn Kunkler. Thanks for joining. All right, so let's dive in with a super hard question right out of the gate. Do you want me to just refer to you as leasing agent 415?
You can do that intermittently. You can refer to me as leasing agent 415 or Inna. It really is interesting because a lot of people know leasing agent 415, but they don't really know my name. I've had people approach me and say, "Oh, you're leasing agent 415," and they have no idea what my name is. I'm like, "Yes, I'm Inna. How are you? Nice to meet you."
That's
So I don't know
amazing.
who you
That's
are at
great
all,
branding.
but yes.
That's how we found each other. Is we both work in the same city, San Francisco, 415. And I found you on social media. I had a need, and that's how I reached out. But it's funny, you're on my feed as leasing agent 415. And I think you're actually in my phone as well as the same thing.
Perfect.
So let's actually talk about that, because obviously you have a very unique business and unique business model. And I feel like most agents across the nation can glean something from this because you're so niche. So the way that we met is I'm a realtor in San Francisco helping buyers and sellers, and you're a leasing agent. And what I found fascinating about you specifically is both of us don't cross streams. I don't lease and you don't sell. And so there's zero competition. I have zero fear that you're going to steal my client if I give you a call. And that's really genuinely what I value about your entire business plan, because as a realtor, as everybody knows, like, we can't do this alone, and we always need resources to help our clients make decisions and form them. And so having these resources is crucial. So my question is, was this intentional to become symbiotic to realtors, or was this something that you discovered along the way? Like, take us through that journey.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a long journey. Hopefully, we have time today for that. But I have a background in finance and taxation. I used to work for Deloitte doing tax returns for Levi's and Google. I don't think Google existed back then, but I do remember Chevron being my client. And at one point, we spent hundreds and hundreds of hours redoing tax returns for Levi's because we found some loophole that would save them a lot of money and millions of dollars. And we spent a good chunk of I personally spent a good chunk of my life redoing those tax returns. And when we presented it to the client, the tax director went, huh. And I realized literally that was the turning point in my life where I realized that what I do doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. It's a humongous corporation, and whatever millions of dollars in savings that we found them by refiling 20 years of tax returns didn't matter at all. So I literally quit Deloitte, and for a year I wandered the streets of San Francisco, wondered what to do. What do I do with myself? I have a bachelor's degree in accounting. I have a master's degree in taxation. I want to somehow lean on it. I just really had no clue. And on one of my walks, I had literally a vision that I wanted to be a real estate asset manager. So what I did is I took out the yellow pages back then. This is 2009. We had yellow pages, and I circled every real estate investment company in San Francisco. I researched them, and I sent them an email saying, "Hey guys, this is who I am. This is my education. This is my background. I'd like to be an unpaid intern. And given that it's 2009, the market was down and everything was down, I'll work for free, and you can teach me, the tricks of the trade, your trade really, and we'll see what happens." And I sent it to about 40 companies. 4 responded. First 3 were like, "Well, what a great idea. But we don't know if we're going to be even open tomorrow. We're laying off people. I mean, we have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow." And the 4th company was like, "Oh, sure. Can you commit to a 90-day internship? Yes. Can you start tomorrow? Yes. Great. Well, you can do so many things for us." So I worked for this real estate investment company here in San Francisco, and they were buying apartment buildings all over the United States. And basically, for first 4 months, I wasn't paid. I would go to the office all day, every day, and I worked with 7 men. It was me and 7 men, and they all. It was a very tightly run ship, and I worked for one guy who was in charge of the office buildings, and I helped him with a lot of asset management, leasing, meaning not leasing the properties, but working with brokers because properties were in Indianapolis and Denver and other parts all over the country. So I was preparing budgets, literally that was one hat that I wore. Then they taught me how to do underwriting for apartment buildings all over the country. So I would get the information from the listing agents from Cushman Wakefield and CBRE and whatnot, and I would underwrite that apartment building. A few years later, an apartment building in San Francisco came across my desk, and it was Sixman Plaza. So yeah, the Martin company, they basically developed that entire area, and they turned them into condos. And in 2007, basically they were able to sell Two Mint Plaza as condos, but they didn't make it in time just for the crash to sell the Six Mint. So the Six Mint Plaza was the apartment building, and they decided to sell it. And the company that I was with bought it, and I was an investor. I put some money into it, and I was an investor in this building. They said, "Well, look, we have buildings all over the country, but we don't have anything in San Francisco. So we don't have a property manager. We don't have a leasing agent in San Francisco. Would you like to do that?" And I thought, well, I was expecting my first son back then. I thought, well, why not? That sounds like something different, because I was done sitting at a desk and analyzing, running Excel spreadsheets. I literally stood there when they bought the building. I stood there with, I don't think I was like 5 months pregnant. I had a Ziploc of keys, and I stood there at the Mint Plaza, and I looked up at the building, and I had no clue what I was doing. And just a couple of years before, I was bored, so I went and got my broker's license. I didn't have to do the agent's license because I have a master's degree, and I was able to take a couple more classes, and that qualified me for the broker's license. So, ta-da! There I was leasing this building, and the amounts, like, to date, one of the first leases I did was the penthouse, which is actually for sale right now, I believe, for $3 million by Compass Agent. And of that unit, I leased for $22,500. And that was in 2013. And to date, I still cannot beat my own record. How you get lucky in the very beginning. To date, I do $20,000 properties, but every year I get so close and I can't beat my own records. So yeah, that's how I ended up in leasing. And then the building was sold to Veritas, which is the largest landlord in the city. I was able to basically become a part of their team, and I did luxury rentals for them. Then I left, I went to Zephyr. I met Michael Barnacle, who was the managing broker of the Pacific Heights office, and I walked up to him at one of the SFAR events, and I said, "Hey, Pacific Union has leasing. Whoever else back then had leasing. Why doesn't Zephyr have leasing department?" He was like, "Well, why don't you start one?" I think he had a drink or two, but there I was. And I interviewed with them, and I basically started my own leasing division at Zephyr. And one day, Compass came calling, and I moved over to Compass and revived my brand of Leasing Agent 415. And ta-da, here I am. My husband came up with a brand name, Leasing Agent 415. He even came up with the first logo that I've ever had. It was a woman, that photo, it's a cartoon of a woman. She's holding a gun, and she's kind of blowing at a gun. And there's a city behind her, and she's got this long ponytail and the gun, and it's a smoking gun. So what he did in Photoshop, he actually changed the gun to a red key. So that was my initial logo. And I used that for a little bit, but now we decided it was a little bit too risque. So for San Francisco, and I just, at one point when I joined Compass in 2018, it was the best move I've ever done, honestly. On my first day at Compass, I walked away with more referrals than I've had at Zephyr in 2 years. So I revived the brand. They created a new logo for me, and it really became known as Leasing Agent 415. And then I, started social media and photos and videos, and, it's a step by step. It's, kind of takes a long time to become an overnight success.
It's so true.
So,
There's a saying, what's practiced in private is something like awarded, rewarded in public. And so it's
mhm.
like the overnight success it's never overnight. It's a long, arduous journey. What I really liked about it, and it kind of comes out a couple times, is you just take a leap of faith on, I don't know what's driving you, but there's a couple points where it's just like, let me say yes, and then I'll figure it out. And then let me say
Mhm.
yes, and I'll figure it out. It sounds like with the decision to get into real estate and the decision to take on a broker's license in leasing, it sounds like there's a level of trusting your gut, intuition. Is that how you base your decisions?
So basically, the way I am designed, I don't know why or how, maybe that's how I was raised. I have no fear. I have no concept of what if I fail. This just doesn't cross my mind. It just never crosses my mind. I hear there's so many things about how to deal with your fear, how to deal with the imposter syndrome, how to deal with, what if this doesn't work? That just never even crosses my mind. I want to do something. If I want to do something, of course I'm going to succeed. I mean, what other way is there? It's just this sort of like blows my mind when people say, "What if it doesn't work?" What do you mean? If you really want it, you are going to put all the effort you can into it if you really want it. When I got my broker's license, I had no real intention of becoming a real estate agent. I was just sort of, my husband and I both actually sat for broker's license, and he failed and he sort of never never did it again. But my husband has so many different licenses. He's a certified internal auditor. He has a black belt in finance. He has an MBA, and he's never failed at anything in life other than this broker's exam. But I got it, and that was in 2009. And I was just literally, I had just started working for free for that company, and there was this opening, and I thought, well, why not? And I never had an intention of selling real estate or, God forbid, leasing real estate. Actually, the reason I never wanted to sell real estate, because I always looked down upon the profession of a real estate agent. And I can explain why. Obviously I don't anymore, but it always felt like a service profession. It's always felt like almost like a waiter in a way, like you are servicing people, you're helping people. It's not like, oh, I went to college and I now have a master's degree and now I sit in this, skyscraper in this big office. Yeah, I'm miserable. I hate what I do, and I don't make as much money as a real estate agent. But the perception of it, that you have to have a college degree, that you have to go to work, and you are somebody, versus you are serving people. That was sort of my belief for a very long time, until I realized how amazing it is to be a real estate agent. How much you give, how much you receive, how flexible it is, how much freedom it gives you. And it really, your income is limitless. You are not within some bracket in some corporation where you get promoted every few years and you have to do your timesheets and you have to put in certain amount of chargeable hours and you have to sell to these clients and you have to, oh my goodness, the freedom that this profession gives you is unbelievable. So had I understood it more sooner, or had I even known that Zephyr at a time was offering, and today they offer a training program for new realtors, I would have been selling real estate. I just didn't know. I just didn't do my research. And I sort of, again, that held me back, that belief, because in 2009, when I got my license, I could have gone and become a real estate agent. And imagine the trajectory from 2009 up until now. My business would be insane. I mean, I would be Nina Hatvani today, or somebody like, I think, I don't know, maybe not. But I didn't know that. So, and I thought, well, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go into the serving profession. I want to rely and kind of rely on my education and my past experience to do something else. And I was wrong. I mean, it's still in a very interesting way. It still put me onto the real estate path. I just didn't understand the signs, I guess. I understand the signs way better now than I ever have before. But yeah, here I am, and I am absolutely 1000% happy doing what I do. I love the niche. I love being able to work with so many real estate agents. I love being able to be the part of their inner circle, because real estate agents are very protective of they don't want other real estate agents to know how they do it, how they do listing presentations, how they do, how they run their business. It's a much, protected territory. But I'm invited to listing presentations with some of the top names in the business, and I see how they do business, and I see how they communicate with clients, and it's unbelievable experience. I learn from them. I take things from them. Of course, it's at full, I'm very discreet. I do not tell anybody else, because today I go to listing presentation with one top producer and tomorrow with another, and they don't know that, but of each other, but of me going with each other. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but they know, and they trust me that what I'm going to hear is going to stay there with me. Joining Compass and really working with a real estate elite, which is what I consider Compass, Compass agents to be, has given me a huge jolt. Just referrals alone. My business is mostly referrals. My business is mostly properties that are not selling, especially these days, that people do trust me, because I don't do any sales. I have no interest in selling. I don't even sell my own property. I buy my own property because that's the easy part, but selling and all the documentation, disclosures and everything else, and I just don't want to have anything to do with it. So I hire somebody to do that. I mean, that's 2 times that I've done it. And then people love that, and they trust me, and they trust that I will do a very, very good job.
And that's genuinely what makes you unique within this industry. Is the market is like a teeter-totter, and typically when homes are selling and they're selling quick, the rental market is on the downside of that. And then when homes aren't selling, then on the upside of that is things are renting. And so we rely on people like you who do that. And what I find fascinating is a lot of agents will lease, they'll sell and lease, and vice versa, they'll lease and sell. And to your point, I'm protective. I'm protective of my business. I don't want to share it because now I'm going to risk it. Or a property manager. There's actually a property manager in the city who does property management and sells. And it's like, I'm not going to risk giving my client over to that opportunity to manage it, because then they're going to swoop it when it comes time for the sale. And that's on the sale is the only time I'm making my money. And on the lease, like for you, that's the only time should be making money. And then for the property manager should be on leasing and managing the property. So it's, again, I think what's really fascinating about your specific model is you have very clear lines of this is what I do and this is how I help. And I've definitely randomly texted you and like, hey, my clients have this property. Like, can you give me a really quick, off the cuff opinion of what you think it would lease for? Which is vastly different from the number that I have in mind, because that's not what I do every single day, day in and day out. And I think the important part, if you're listening to this and you're not, let's say, in the real estate category, but you're a mortgage broker or some other symbiotic profession that we kind of all lean on each other, having these people is so crucial to look good in front of your client, because you're giving them what they need in that moment. And that's, I get it, to what you were sharing earlier about we are in a position to serve, but we also, in this market, because our price points are so incredible, we get compensated really generously for that, which makes me both of us smile.
Yes, indeed. There are only a few cities in North America, a handful of cities in the world where you can actually make good living doing leasing.
And same on the sales side is I don't have incredible sales volume numbers, but I have really good production. And so my net income it's very good because I don't have to do, and we don't have to do insane amounts of numbers to have a really nice lifestyle here. In terms of referrals, so it sounds like you're really heavily leveraging the brokerage, your network. How many of those are you getting and pulling from your social media platforms?
Interestingly, this year we started doing TikToks. So believe it or not, I am terrified of camera. As much video and photos that I put out, it's always a very stressful day for me because I have to think ahead. I have to plan where we're filming, what are we filming. I have to mentally walk through the property. I have to know what I'm saying. I have to record the voiceover. There's a lot of work that goes into it. So what we started, the gentleman that I found this year who's doing all my videos, he's following me around with his camera. So he started posting on TikTok, and TikTok has been incredible. I have basically three sources of business. One is referrals. Second is my website, because my website has been SEO to a point where if you Google leasing agent San Francisco or rental agent San Francisco, I show up organically number one. Yes. So I get a lot of business through the website. And then TikTok has been incredible. People email me or they message me through TikTok, or they see me on TikTok and find me on Instagram, because my Instagram is far more elaborate. There's a lot more effort into my, but believe it or not, I mean, I've been doing Instagram for since 2017, and I have about less than 3,000 followers. But then I've been doing TikTok for 6 months, and I have more followers on TikTok than on Instagram. The same video on Instagram, same video post on Instagram and TikTok. On TikTok, it would be 300,000 views. On Instagram, it's 1,000 views. I don't know why. I have no idea. I don't go to TikTok. I don't like it, but a lot of people are on it. But this year, I have gotten a landlord client off of TikTok. And I've got multiple tenants off of TikTok. People see a property, and usually by the time they reach out, because it takes some time to produce it, to post it, all that, the property rents. But a lot of times, like, oh, this property rented, but they have another one. So there have been some instances where I still rented a property to somebody who found me on TikTok. So social media has been incredible. Has been truly, if you put effort into it, it really pays.
I'm going to link one of my favorite videos of you in the description. So if you're listening, you could go to it. It's the quick rapid fire question and answer. First of all, I love the style. I think it was done and executed really well. And then two, you are very smooth and very natural on camera. So you not feeling that way, it's not how it's received from the audience. I think it actually, that's, like I said, it's my favorite video. And I've seen it. I remember originally seeing it on Instagram when it first came out. There was a little teaser on there. And then I found it on YouTube later, and then prepping for this, I found it again. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so well done.
Which one is it? Because we did 3.
It was the Potrero Hill property, a 5,000 square foot property, which I loved. You marketed the property simultaneously, but then it just went through a bunch of really classy rapid fire questions that it was very tastefully and elegantly executed.
The idea for this video, not the idea for this video, but this video is literally stolen, okay, let's be honest, from Douglas Elliman does show and tell on YouTube with all their agents they do it in New York. So all these agents are walk around the neighborhood, and then they walk into a property, and there's this rapid question answer, or it's like the Vogue style video. That's what I learned later on. So I saw that video, and I watched maybe, 50 of them with different agents, and I found some questions that I really enjoyed. And we actually did 3 videos like that. The first video we did in my home. Then there was the video on Potrero Hill, and that was my first video where I'm marketing the property and I'm marketing myself simultaneously. And then there's another video out there where I was marketing the Altum, the 12-unit building out in the Sunset. We did that video as well, so that's all on YouTube as well. But it is really such a great idea to market yourself and the property simultaneously, because a lot of times people spend a lot of time marketing the property, and all these videos, they are quite frankly the same. It's the aerial canvas, and I love aerial canvas, but it's the drone is flying over the neighborhood and it zooms in on the house, and you kind of like, you walk through the house and you see the water running. Okay, there's water in the house and the lights are on, and here is the pillow, and here is this, and it's like, oh my God, it is so boring. Where's a real estate agent? Why aren't they walking around? Why aren't they showing off? Why aren't they marketing themselves? My goodness, why are you marketing the property? I mean, today it's more difficult, but up until between 2009 and a few months ago, the property sells itself. You don't need to do anything. Just put it on Craigslist. It'll still sell with multiple offers. But where are you in it? Where are you in this video? Why aren't you known for selling something that's beautiful? So I thought, no. I got to show myself, and I need to focus on doing, anytime. Initially, when I started social media, I met a photographer, and we had 4 photo shoots over the course of 2 years. And I have thousands of beautifully retouched photos. People sometimes message me on Instagram like, oh, you have such beautiful skin. What do you do? What kind of cream do you use? I'm like, Photoshop. That's what I use. Apply daily. So what I would do is I would put a picture of myself, and then I would write out something real estate related, right? Something about, I would actually make, a series, 5, things to consider when renting a property. And then there's one picture, and then there's reason number 1, and then I detail it out. And then, next day I will post another picture, and then reason number 2. So it'll be a series of that. And then what I've decided to do is, why don't I want to make a video out of this? I've already have all this content written out. All I need to do is speak it on the camera. And believe it or not, it's not that easy. Actually, interestingly, on the Potrero video, there was one shot where we did it, 15 takes. And then because that house was furnished and the owner still lived there, I was just not getting it. So I went out to the fridge, and he had a lot of alcohol in it. So I literally gulped bourbon out of the bottle, and I took a really, really big sip. And I gave myself 5 minutes, and, bourbon's my drink of choice, and it just really kind of relaxed me. And that video is amazing. That is actually my favorite video. Like I can see where I am where I am completely stressed out and sober, and where I am totally relaxed.
That is hilarious.
So, tricks of the trade. But yeah, there in so many cases, I have to say something 5, 6, 10 times. It's hard work. It's hard work.
Yes, I completely agree. I have similar. I put out videos and content, and or we do even just as simple as our profile photos. Like, those aren't just one shot and you're done. You're shooting, and you're slightly moving and lifting your chin, and it's like these slight changes. It is hard work, but I will preface it with it pays off, and it shows, because you're building your book of business on referrals, which is off of these platforms. And I really like that you're similarly to the strategies that I use, is you don't go straight at the sale, because the bottom line is we all love to buy, but we all hate to be sold. So if I can entertain you or present it and package it in a different way, that's going to benefit for you. Like, you're sharing things about your business now. I'm sharing things about my business. People now know we're both in San Francisco. And if an opportunity comes up, then ideally we would get the call. And so we're not going directly for, say, a referral, but we're doing it in a way that's helpful, beneficial, uplifting. And in addition to, similar to your Instagram, it's know your audience and create content that's applicable to them. And serve it up, entertain them a little bit, and then give it back to them, which is smart.
Yeah, I think it's really important to find your voice on social media. People say that all the time, but it's so important, because what I'm seeing a lot of people do is they, for example, Compass puts out these Happy Holidays cards, right, or Happy Hanukkah, or Happy, and And I follow every real estate agent in the city pretty much. And when I scroll down, I see it 1, 2, 3. Everybody posts the same stuff over and over. And you can't do that. You just have to create your own. I don't use Compass marketing department at all for anything. I pay for my own videos, I pay for my own photos, I pay for my everything, but it needs to be different and it needs to be beautiful, because when you think about Instagram, it's like your own private Vanity Fair. When somebody goes on it, what do they see? Do they like the layout? Do they like the color scheme? A lot of times people post dogs and food and some real estate picture and some picture of themselves that is, at a terrible angle with terrible lighting. No, you can't do that. That's very often somebody finds me online and I have a conversation with them, and then I go meet them in person. And when I go to meet them in person, they're standing at their doorstep with the keys in hand and they're giving me the keys. They haven't met me yet in person, but they're standing there with keys, and they're like, okay, we want you to release our property. I'm like, okay, let's go see the property first. Let's talk. But they said, they tell me, we've already seen everything about you. We already know everything about you. And we want you to market our property the way you market your other properties. That's the key, because they've looked at my YouTube channel, they looked at my LinkedIn, they've looked at my Instagram, they looked at my TikTok. I mean, they looked at everything, right? They may see one video on YouTube and another video on Instagram and another video on TikTok, and all together they form this opinion. So by the time, I don't have to do any sales. My listing presentation is me walking around telling them what to do. You have to paint, you have to clean, you have to fix this, you have to replace that. That's my listing presentation. And what do you think we can get for the property? I'm like, if you do all the things that I told you to do, I can get you X amount.
That's amazing.
That's my listing presentation.
You remind me of one of my favorite listing presentations. I literally pulled up, I parked in the driveway. The client was standing in front of their house. I got out of my car. She smiled. I was like, hey, I'm Shawn. She introduced herself. We shook hands. She pulled keys out of her pocket, literally handed them to me. And then I was like, what's happening? I thought this was it was really bizarre. Like, I was so caught off guard. She's like, well, you're going to need these to sell the house. And we just basically started to talk from there. And because I'm not as heavy on social media as you are, but I'm really heavy on our internal network marketing. So our newsletter, our different programs and things like that. And I sold a property around the corner, and they came to one of the open houses, and I was just blasting them with my marketing stuff. And they liked it so much. They saw what I did at the other property. It was weird. To your point, they had already made a decision far before I showed up. And it was I just showed up, and I was like, really? Like, it was really weird. It was a pinch me moment of like, is this really happening right now? This is amazing. So I want more of that. As do you.
Yeah. And you know what, interestingly, I believe in the law of abundance in general. We talked about it in the past, but I believe that if something is meant to be mine, if this client is meant to be my client, if I'm meant to make money on this property, it's going to happen, and it's going to go really well. So when I go to meet clients, I am not dying to get this property. I'm not desperate. I am there to help them, and I'm there to give them advice if they ask for it, and I'm there to give my opinion, and that's it. If I get the property, great. If I don't get the property, whatever. That means the universe saved me from some, I'm actually grateful to universe more for the ones that I didn't get than the ones that I did get, because it saved me from some kind of trouble, I feel like. So I never force anything. I never push anything. I never follow up. I just don't. I come in, I do my thing. I talk about what I can do for them and what I cannot do for them. I give them advice, and then I just pretty much, if you need me, you'll find me. That's kind of my attitude about it. I don't send any newsletters. I don't send any. There's an agent at Compass who sends letters of the heart. I don't do any Merry Christmas. I don't do any Thanksgiving. I don't do anything. Like, I don't want to hear from you. From you as a client, once we sign the lease, if you're calling me and it hasn't been 11 months yet, the tenant hasn't given you notice, oh my, you better be calling me with a referral because then there's a problem, right? So that's my take on things. I give my absolute best to every transaction, and then that's it. You know where to find me. That's why my business is repeat business all the time. Over like in January, in January, February, I have 4 or 5 properties coming up that I've leased in the past. Just like that. People are just calling because they know. It's more difficult for real estate agents because people buy a home on average once every 10 years, I believe, or
It
something
depends
like
on the
that,
property
right?
type, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So by then, even no matter how much you keep in touch with them, the brother may have married somebody who got their real estate license, and now they're obligated to work with that sister-in-law or whatnot, and sort of you kind of lose business no matter how hard. I mean, a lot of times you don't, but a lot of times you do. But for me, tenants move every year, every 2 years, every 3 years, and they've had such a good experience with me. I always make sure they leave me a Google review, and they know to call me. And with so many of my clients, I am literally friends. We hug, but yeah, we talk about all kinds of other things. I know about their families, they know about mine. So that's a very good relationship to keep. And to your point, when you said you're giving away business to a property manager, the property who also sells, the property manager has a lot more points of contact with the client because they deal with them all of the time. Something broke, something happened with the tenant, so they build that relationship slowly. So no matter how good your relationship was in the beginning, they've trusted, if that person is good, they've trusted them enough, and by the time they'll be the first person to know that the client is considering selling the property and be like, hey, I know so much about the property, I can do so much more for you than the guy who sold you this property. So you got to be mindful of that. And same thing goes the other way, is that when people hire a person to lease a property, that's one of the big mistakes that I see people make. I think it's really important to hire somebody who only does leasing, to lease a property, not somebody who does sales and leasing, because ultimately I don't make as much money on the lease as people do on the sale, right? So to me, this is my primary income, and I will put all my effort into it. While somebody who mostly does sales, their focus will be on sales and not so much on the leasing of the property, right? So you have to be very, very careful as to who you trust and who's going to really pay attention to your listing
and to your business. I mean, at the end of the day, you're a business, I'm a business, and you want to work with people who are going to benefit your growth and not take from it. And so, yeah, like choose very strategically, build your network very intelligently. And I really like what you said is you really focus on the relationship and with your clients. And you also do that with the agents. I know you and I have had lunch and hung out and chatted, and you're always top of mind because of that, because and I think this is intelligent for any business, but the more things you know about each other, the wider and deeper your relationship becomes. And then you kind of know who these people are, rather than just, it's less transactional, like kind of like with a dentist. Like you don't really know anything about your dentist except you see them for a cleaning once a year. But there's not a lot of depth there. Whereas with realtors, the ones who are in it and they have been here for a while, most of them will say their best clients are actually their friends, like who come over during the holidays and we hang out together, go over their house for drinks. There's much more contact to it, and the traditional marketing doesn't need to happen because like you don't have to market to your best friends. You're just friends. You just text them and check in on them, see how they're doing from time to time. But to your point as well, with real estate, the life cycle of a transaction it's much bigger. On a national average, it's people stay in homes for 16 years, whereas the average lease is 12 months. Totally different bracket. But again, like your niche is it's really intelligent the way you went about it. And I think you also serendipitously found the right place to do it. I think it works in really big markets like New York, San Francisco, LA, say like a Miami, but it may not work necessarily in a small town where there's just not that volume on all sides. With social media, it sounds like your big driver right now is Instagram, and then your secondary is more TikTok. Are there any other platforms that you're using?
Yes. So obviously, every piece of content I produce, I post it on YouTube on my channel. I posted on Instagram, TikTok. I posted, and Instagram posted on Facebook automatically. I posted on LinkedIn, absolutely. And I posted on Google. A lot of people don't realize how huge Google is. I mean, yes, it's a search network and all that, but how important to be very present, to have a Google My Business account. And Google My Business account, it's in order to be ranking on Google, there are three parts to it. One is posting what you sold, what you've got for sale, any videos, any piece of content you posted on Google. Another big thing is reviews. I don't have any Zillow reviews. I personally don't need Zillow reviews, but Google reviews are huge for me, because Google, when you have active Google reviews, like I have 54 of them, it ranks you higher. And then having a website that has a proper SEO and so that you do show up. Because I don't know if you remember Talladega Nights, the legend of Ricky Bobby, when the father goes, "If you ain't first, you're last," right? So try to do whatever you can to show up on the first page. Because if you Google real estate agents in San Francisco, there are two names that show
Don't sound,
up.
but I know who they are.
Number one, yeah,
it's Shawn
exactly.
Kunkler and
yes, exactly. So yeah, but look at what they are doing, and really, I mean, when people are you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There is nothing new that's going to happen in the real estate market. Like if you follow Tim Ferry, he's completely out of ideas at this point. I've actually trained to be one of his coaches at one point, and I know the inside of the business. What he says is like either hire more agents or do more video. There's more to that. I think it's really important for us as agents to rely on who we are, our essence, really. And that is really important, because what we need to do is spend some time looking within ourselves. What is our asset? What is that one asset that we have that we need to expand? How we need to grow ourselves? How we need to, like, for example, like one of the things I tell people, because I also do coaching for leasing agents. That's one of my that's a leasing masterclass, and I just coach people privately, one-to-one. I used to do coaching for real estate investment companies locally in San Francisco, and I would just get their agents in the room, or we would go around different properties, and I would tell them how to handle objections, how to literally how to run your business, how to build a leasing business, and how to run it. What's really important is to stop listening to all the real estate experts at this point. Like, stop learning more about real estate, and because every expert is really wrong. Oh, somebody says everything's going to resume, market's going to be back up Q2 of 2023, and then someone says Q3, and someone says Q4, and then Elon Musk comes out and it's not until 2024. And it's like, don't do that. Stop listening to that. And I think it's really important for people to kind of learn outside of their real estate balloon, masterclass, learn from all these other people. For example, Mind Valley. I'm a huge fan of Mind Valley, where it's a platform for all the things that have to do with you and your connection to universe, your energy, all these kind of things, like learning YouTube, TEDx, the TED Talks. There are all so many things that you can get so many ideas from so different people. It is unbelievably important. Listen to some doctor talk about the brain and neuroscience, and you'll get some kind of an idea for your real estate business, believe it or not. So I'm a huge proponent of that, and that's when I feel like things things are slower for me, that's what I do. Like at least 1 hour a day, or if I'm driving somewhere, I'm listening to TED Talks or something like that. Because that, well, it makes you a little bit more rounded as a person, and it makes you more interesting, and it gives you a lot of different ideas. But going back to what Tom Ferry is saying, is like you don't have to reinvent yourself. What you need to do is really, if you are going to follow specific real estate people, follow top names in the business. For example, I follow, like, all my video ideas come from this one woman who sells multi-million-dollar properties in Miami. I follow her and I see what she's doing, and I just do this for my leasing properties. Why not? It's not gonna be why
you don't
not?
have to.
And then I follow.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Exactly. And then another thing is, for example, I love Tim Smith in Southern California. He has brilliant videos. One of his latest video is that he hired 2 professional ballet dancers, and they're dancing through the house.
I saw that one. Stunning.
Wow.
Like, so beautifully, elegantly executed.
How does that compare to a drone flying over the neighborhood into the house and the water's coming out of the faucet? Really, I mean, this is what clients are looking for. Different. If you want to be different. But where does Tim Smith get these ideas, or people who work for him? They look outside the box. They look outside that bubble of real estate. Somebody may have gone out to a ballet and be like, oh my gosh, what if these people were dancing through that fabulous properties that we were coming through? Let's hire them, That's why it's so important to like really, really expand your world. Because a lot of realtors, there's nothing to talk to them about other than real estate.
Kind of true. It's true. It's one of my favorite books so I studied martial arts many years ago. And one of the very first books I just fell in love with and read cover to cover multiple times was by Miyamoto Musashi, The Book of Five Rings. And in there, he essentially, I'm going to misquote it slightly because I just don't remember it perfectly, but the gist is, he says, if you want to become a better martial artist, you have to learn painting. If you want to be a better painter, learn carpentry. If you want to be a better carpenter, learn farming. And to your point, I usually do cardio a couple days a week. And if I'm on the bike or I'm doing something that's stationary, TED Talks are always my go-to. And I don't actually use them to necessarily learn something, meaning to apply it in my business, learn something. I sometimes just listen to them because it's inspiring to be around people who are doing things on a level that I want to be. I think that's a fact that people often overlook, is if you just hang out with people who inspire you, you then bring that inspiration back to your business or to your clients. And then your clients, they get that, not sounding woo-woo, but they get that energy off of you, that you're inspired and you're excited about this property and you're excited about executing this new idea of, listen, we're going to have ballet dancers and they're going to go through the property. And they're, regardless of if the idea is mediocre or phenomenal, if you're insanely excited about it and inspired and enthusiastic, they're going to be too. I guarantee it. And I think it's a missing component. And we do, I think, get stuck in the monotony of, well, this is what this agent does and did, and that's what my brokerage supports me doing, so I'll just do this. And we kind of, unfortunately, sometimes default to easy instead of stepping back and looking at it from a different lens. How would we approach this? Zillow, this is super silly, Zillow recently, I think it was Zillow, did a study. It was something like 43%, but homes that had the night filter sold 43% quicker than those that just had the traditional day shot. So those ones that looks like the beautiful purple and orange sky, and it looks like it's the sun setting, it's like the most magical evening, those homes sell quicker. And to your point, it's like they just tried something a little bit different, a little bit unique, because the reality is everything we're talking about is online. And so how do you get people to stop scrolling for a split second to look at whatever that thing you have is? And if it's a property that we're leasing or we're selling, how do we get them to stop scrolling, look at it, and it might not be right for them, but it might be right for their friend who's looking, and get them to share it or do whatever they want with it. I mean, even down to the money shot of, you see so many agents just blow that. It's like you have one shot that's going to showcase your entire property. It's like, why did you pick the bathroom? That's, it hasn't been remodeled in 10 years and it's unattractive. And it's like, really? That's the thing that you went for?
Yeah, my favorite one is the one where the toilet lid's open.
Or the photographer's in the mirror.
A vertical shot of a toilet lid open. That's like, my God, this is it. Buy this one.
My one that I was actually talking to my photographer the other day. I was like, please don't do this. I don't understand why we're showing running water or the burners on the stove. Like, I really genuinely don't understand. If somebody can DM me and just be like, hey, we do it because, like, we know how it works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the thing is that even if you have great creative ideas, the process of filming it, the process of putting it all together, it is so intensive. It is just, you have to think of so many little details every time. I am on a schedule with my video guy. Every month we do 5 videos. In 1 month, we did actually 10 videos. There were 7 locations in one day, and I had to think of every outfit, hair, makeup. What am I saying? How am I walking? What am I doing? It's unbelievable. Like I love Brian Tran. I was supposed to be on his podcast earlier this week, but we rescheduled. But he's wearing a white t-shirt and he's just talking, and he has so much energy, and he's just got he just gets his point across. I can't do that. That's not me. I need to look good. I need to have everything in order to feel good, in order to feel confident, so I can walk around, so I can talk about this property. And we're all different, but it is so much work. And I completely understand when somebody's like, oh, I don't want to do that. That's too much. But you have to, there's no other way anymore.
You actually just said a couple things in there that are really important that shouldn't be overlooked either. It's 1 day a month, right? Which is not insane. Like, we can all carve out 1 day. And the other thing is, if you film 5 different locations, so let's say you have just five, which is super lean, but you have 5 pieces now you can put on social media. That's not just 5 pieces. That's 5 pieces added to the last 5 pieces, added to the last 5. And in the course of the year, the course of 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you now have, to your point, a now beautifully curated platform where people can go and consume multiple aspects of your experience in doing this thing. And then they can see all of these multiple touch points and then say, wow, Inna's amazing. I'm just going to call her. And when she gets here, I'll hand her the keys, because all of this has been built, which, if you break it down into the simple, it's maybe a day of prep, 2 days, 2 days of prep, realistic, like full days. Like, you're actually writing out scripts, picking out clothes and properties and all of that. And then it's a full day. So let's say it's 3 days, and that's pre-assuming you're doing this all by yourself. You don't have any other help or assistance or guidance. And then again, you're now multiplying all of this through years, which is huge. And the other beautiful thing is, when you go to sleep tonight, it's still working. Somebody can go and pop onto Instagram and scroll through and look at everything you have, and you're literally not lifting a finger at that point. And I feel like that's the part that people overlook and forget about, of how do we cover up space and get people to know who we are and figure this out.
And it's 5 videos that go on 5 different platforms. So somebody may be on LinkedIn, somebody may see you on TikTok, somebody may see you on Instagram, somebody may see you on Google. I get this report from Google, 26 people viewed your video. How do you even find that? Like I don't even know how to find my own video on Google, but somebody found it and watched it and liked it. And oh my gosh, who are these people? And it's working for you. It's evergreen. Unbelievable, unbelievable. And every property should be, every agent. Also, another thing that I always tell agents, like especially my I'm in a women's council of realtors, and we have this group of women, and there's an agent. She was walking around with a Compass hat on and a Compass shirt. I'm like, why are you marketing Compass? Why aren't you marketing your brand? Where's your brand in it? I mean, Compass doesn't need any marketing. You need your marketing. Who are you? How am I going to talk to you? I don't want to talk to Compass about my real estate needs. I want to talk to you. What's your name? Where's your logo on this? For years, I've had 2 leggings. They're just black leggings. And on the leg, down the leg, it said #leasingagent415, just literally down the entire leg. And I would walk around in these leggings. And the other pair of leggings, I went a little bit more. I have my logo is around like a stamp, right? I had it right on my butt, right on my butt. I was like, what? If you look at my butt, you might as well look at my logo, right? So I wore that for a longest time. I had to be very careful as to what how I behave and what I say when I wore that, because people would know. But yeah, I mean that's marketing. You just have to be somewhat different, somewhat creative. I'm still waiting for that video where I can rent out a leopard or something, where I can walk around some fabulous house with a leopard and then be like, hey.
Well, listen, if anybody's going to make that happen, it's you.
Or a crocodile, like a big croc.
That would definitely get eyeballs online for sure. That would go viral.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is a whole nother topic. But unpacking the whole branding and understanding what you shared. It's like, yeah, you can wear the logo of your brokerage, but people aren't connecting with you. But why do they want to connect with you? Like, why you? What's special? What's unique? What's different with you within your brand? And with agents, we are the brand. Like, we're, people have relationships with us, and figuring out how all those components fit together is super important. But I do find as well, I think social media it's a beast unto itself. And I think it could be a rabbit hole if you don't plan accordingly. Like, figure out, I think the most important part, and this is my 2 cents of it all, is if you're a realtor and you're, let's say, new in the business, is first figure out what's working for you and do a lot of that, because that's going to drive revenue. And then you'll have the revenue later on to look at projects. And then you'll have to figure out, what do you want to invest time in and money? Because, to your point, it's going to cost 3 days of time to set up the video. Then it's going to cost you money to have somebody produce it and edit it and clean it up and post it and do all of those pieces. But that's also a long game. And so short term, figure out what's working and just go after that. And which you did. And this is what I actually love about this conversation, is you started with, like, all my referrals are coming from this source. I'm going to go and hammer that, build up this base. This base is nice. This thing now is overflowing over here. I'm going to go and build up this new referral resource. Oh, this is overflowing. I'm going to move it over here. And so you've been strategic with moving from one source to the next, being in the industry for a decade, and this is what you're doing now. I think the context that people have to realize is it's taken you 10 years to get to the point of what you're doing. And so if you're at the 10-year mark, then you should be doing this thing. But if you're at the 1-year mark, you should be doing what you did at the 1-year mark to get to the 2-year mark. And that's sometimes where people lose focus, and they go all over the place.
A big turning point for me when I realized, and I was thinking, I was spending a lot of time doing Instagram, and then I was like, well, I'm not really getting that much, clients are not DMing me all the time. I'm not getting huge amount of business on it. And that's what right as I joined Compass, I realized that my clients are not landlords. My clients are real estate agents. that was a turning point for me. So I pivoted and kind of started gearing more towards the real estate agents and following all the real estate agents and liking their posts and commenting on their posts and supporting them. Sometimes, somebody's property is not selling and they bring me in and they're like, well, we really like to sell it. And like, you know what? It's your client. I really want you to sell this property because that's what the client wants. And then that's what you want. You've spent a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money on this property. I want you to sell it. My goal is not, last thing I want to do is come and take your property from you. No, how can I support you? To a point where I once met with an agent. She had a property on California Street, a beautifully renovated home, and she was, at her wit's end. And we talked and we thought, okay, let's start, thinking about renting the property. And as I was walking away, I turned around and I said, why don't we feng shui this property? What do I do? So I told her exactly, I'm actually a fan of it. This is my book. If you're in real estate, you're not selling, your property is not selling, get this book. Feng shui the hell out of your property. So we feng shui the property. There are different schools of feng shui, but this one is the simplest one where you basically take the property and you divide it into 9 either squares or rectangles, but 9 equal parts. And each part is responsible for different areas. There's no compass of any kind. You don't need to decide southeast or northwest. So very simple. So what we did is I told her exactly, so in the prosperity corner, the money area, what to do, how to load it up. She sold the house with 2 offers within a week.
Stuff works.
And I lost a huge commission. But you know what? I don't care because we became friends and she referred me so much more business afterwards. It really, you gotta pay it forward. I've done this so many times where I've just helped people do, kind of think outside the box and think creatively. And, and you know how many times I have talk to a client, an agent would call me and like, oh, my clients, they're thinking about, they can't decide, should they rent or should they sell? Can you talk to them? And I'm like, don't worry. So 9 out of 10 times after they talk to me, they go selling route. Because I'm very frank and open and direct about what it takes to be a landlord in San Francisco rental laws and this and this and this and all kinds of things. I'm like, you're moving away to another state forever. You're not coming back to the city. Why do you need this place that you may stay in occasionally? How are you going to stay in it if somebody lives there? It's like, it doesn't make any sense financially, in any way. Most people decide to sell, and agents love that, and they love me for that, because ultimately you have to do what's right for the client, and I also have the agent in mind as well, right? What's good for the agent. So there are so many agents that have sold the properties because convince the owners not to rent.
There's so many amazing points all packed into that, and I think the best way to wrap up this podcast is with what you shared is your client is the realtor, and in supporting them and in being upfront and honest with their clients, the repeat business doesn't come from the person leasing the property. It's coming from the agent. And in San Francisco, there's like 5,000 or 6,000 active license, and we're a 7 by 7 mile space, which is incredibly dense. I know I've done it numerous times. I'm part of different mastermind groups, and somebody's like, oh, who's a luxury leasing agent? Hold on 1 second. And I shoot them your name. And like, I may not interact with you or have a client who does a transaction with you for 6 months, a year, but I may have also shared your name 6 times in 1 month, which is more important than that one transaction that you may or may not get from me, because the seller may decide to actually sell and not lease it. And so I think the way that you approach your business is brilliant. I always love talking to you. I honor your time. So thank you. Where is the best place for people to find you?
Google leasing agent San Francisco. No, really, Instagram. I think if you have Instagram, leasing agent 415, Facebook, literally, I am the same on every platform. My website is leasingagent415.com. Always happy to call. Always happy to chat with anybody. People text me at 11 o'clock at night. Offers are due tomorrow. What do you think this will rent for? And I give them. And I respond within minutes, literally. So I'm always there. I'm always available. I'm always happy to help. Give my advice. It's going to be very frank and very direct. You have to like it or don't call me. We're gonna do the best for you and for your client. That's very simple. Again, it's if it's meant to be, it's gonna be, and it's all about there's enough for everybody. There's enough for everybody. That's what I believe in.
That's the perfect way to end it. That's a wrap. Thank you.